Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight we ask that controversial, age-old question. Are music videos still important? Well, let's get to it. Let's get the panel ready. Let's go. Contrarians, tonight we actually have a really great topic for everyone. Topic for tonight: are music videos important anymore? As everyone knows, music video really started back out in the 60s. The Beatles would push these out. Promotional films like To the Ed Sullivan Show. We had the Kinks doing videos. A lot of bands in the 60s did it. It then kind of dried up. Well, actually, there was quite a few 70s bands that would still put out videos. So Player put out one just for giggles and everything. But the 80s, when MTV hit, things really took off. So, but now, is it such a big deal anymore? The current music scene, how has it affected that? Are they important anymore is what we're going to try to answer. So tonight, I want to welcome Peter Jones.
Hello.
Parish of Rock. And then the Elder of Rock, Stephen Elder, who's his first time on the channel. Welcome, Stephen. Nice to see you. Glad to have you. We love new blood.
Okay.
Because you've not been on here before. Darn it, we're going to throw it over to you first.
First time being on any panel. Like, it's not going to be on any panel, on any channel.
You've not done this at all.
No.
Throw him into the walls, for God's sakes.
Yes,
that's how I run the show. Okay. So Stephen, welcome aboard. Are music videos important anymore? What's your thoughts on that?
I think a little bit. I mean, because I will go to on YouTube and there's a new song, like I just checked out the new Dragon Force video for Doomsday Party to check that out to see what they're kind of up to and see what that's like. But also a lot on YouTube, you don't necessarily have to have like a full-blown video. You can have lyric videos, like they'll have the lyrics to some graphics. Like Judas Priest just did that to promote their new album. They put out a couple lyric videos before they came out with the conceptual video. And you can do that with about every song on an album. So yes, I think there's a little bit important, especially if you want to check out new music,
Yeah, there's just not really anywhere to play them, but YouTube's kind of taken over for MTV. I mean, if there's any market for that, I guess it would be show it out on YouTube. That's about all you've got, right?
Yeah, that's about all you can do.
YouTube.
It's cool to see Mike check it a lot, there.
Mm-hmm. But it's not like it was. And I think with the record companies, but Stephen, think about this too. Like you mentioned before we started to record, record companies used to push money into these artists to make a video. I'm sure they had to pay it back, but there really isn't like that, anything like that now. There's barely any record companies, for God's sake. So
yeah.
I mean,
well, I think also that's
go ahead.
That like has to do with it. I'm sorry. That's to do with like you can do a video though kind of easily if you know what you're doing on a computer with a green screen too. Nowadays, so you don't maybe need quite the budget, as long as you have somebody that knows what they're doing with an iPhone and a computer,
Right.
So,
but do you think it's really that important?
A little bit. I think it was a little bit because, like I said, I still check out if I hear of a new band and they have a video on YouTube, I'll check it out. Just to or like I'll check them out. So I think they're a little important. Maybe not as much as it used to be, but I still think they're a little bit, yes.
All right, cool. Well, we're just having ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to have a general discussion and just talk amongst ourselves like we do here on the Contrarians. It's all about the conversation and turning you on to these artists, though. I don't know if we're really going to talk about many artists here, but it's an interesting topic. So I'm going to throw it over to, by the way, Stephen, thank you so much. I mean, the Elder of Rock.
That's right.
I'm going to throw it over to Peter Jones to get his thoughts on it while we're cooking on this.
Excellent. Thank you again. Welcome.
Nice to see you.
Love great new members and everything.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to look at this as kind of in a totality. So to answer the immediate question, do I feel that they're necessary now? No, they're not. But I'm going to qualify it. And so let's take the Wayback Machine, Peabody and Sherman, and let's go back to when most people will say this all started, right? We're August 1st, 1201 on 1981, and MTV comes out. And at that point and moving forward, I'm going to say at first, yes, MTV and videos were exceptionally important. Why? because it was a promotional tool that was not singularly tied to the radio. And the radio, in all its beauty and all its glory, in some people's worlds, was only in their car. They may not have had a radio in their house or in a bedroom. I remember clearly getting my first Panasonic Twist radio when I was 10 years old, and the fact that I had radio in my room was a huge, huge deal. So we look at MTV, and at first, yes, it's about exposure. It's get as many bands out there as possible that you don't have to leave your house to discover. They can be on that box that we've all completely fallen in love with, and in a lot of cases was on almost from when you woke up into when you went to sleep. And especially as you got older, and I know in my dorm and then in my house off of campus, that was on literally every time the TV was on. It was basically a visual radio. We used it for audio in the house. But then I'm going to separate something here. There are basically, I think, two different kinds of videos. There's the concept/story video, and then there's the performance video, whether it's live or whether it's the band lip sync. I think, to my opinion, at first, there's a lot of concept. There's some performance ones. Obviously, Pat Benatar was the first real band after the Buggles. That was kind of a lip sync, live, to You Better Run. But then, of course, as it moved on, things got more elaborate, things get more crazy, and they start become mini movies. And what do they have to do with the song? Who bloody knows? And now it's all about concept and everything else. Let me put this in here. I dug deep on this. There is a hierarchy to our senses. Obviously, we have 5 of them. And the top most powerful one is our sight. It gives us the most information, and it informs us way more than our other senses do, while they are all equally important, our eyes. Auditory is second. So when you get to a video that has audio on it, by nature, the video is going to take precedence because the way we are designed. So now it's about visual. And does that make the visual more important than the audio? Depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If the video is a complex story and you've got your band members who you're really not even sure who's in the band, but they look like actors and you're not sure what they're doing, versus a performance video where you watch them say, oh, there's the drummer, that's the singer. You maybe not had seen them before, or only seen a picture of them in, say, a periodical, a circus, Hit Parade, or Cream, depending on what type of music you liked, right?
Right.
So then it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it starts to create a huge number of artists. And I think it got to the point where it became detrimental. All the ancillary video stuff did start to take away from the audio, in my opinion. But it created a huge list of artists. Obviously, if we talk about the bands that, quote, made MTV, and this is not a comprehensive list, people can add or subtract, but we're going to whip through this. Obviously, we'd look at the names: Madonna, Michael Jackson, Asia, Duran Duran, Twisted Sister, Huey Lewis, Janet Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, Whitesnake, Police, Whitney, the Bangles, ZZ Top, Peter Gabriel, Nirvana, Prince, Dire Straits, David Lee Roth, Tommy Two-Tone, I won't say it, and the Buggles, right? I mean, that's a small list.
Small list.
But that's a pretty good definition of things that defined MTV. So now as we move forward, where are we today? Well, when MTV stops playing videos, it becomes a channel. It doesn't even play music anymore. That doesn't exist. So we're trying to find where those things come from. And as we move in today's day and age, YouTube is the visual medium, but we now have streaming services that are focused purely on audio. And I think that's good. And so then what happens with YouTube? Well, the fact that YouTube is free in most cases, unless you're paying for ad-free stuff, you can go pretty much research anything you want. And I will say categorically, anytime I am researching any band that I don't have material of, and if I see a selection that includes a video, or just maybe in the album itself. You know, you can look at the album cover while it's playing. I will never, ever, ever pick the video. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know anything about it. And I think there's something that ties in with that. It is kind of the correlation between books and movies. People who read books often see the movie and go, you ruined it. And sometimes vice versa. You saw the movie first, then you read the book and you go, oh God, you left this out and that's not right. This character wasn't that way. And I go to the movie Psycho 2. Way back when it came out, I grew up on the original. Of course, it's black and white. I sat in the theater with my brother. It opens up with the Bates house in that creepy black and white. And then all of a sudden the screen goes color. Mm-hmm. And I looked at my brother and I go, they just ruined it for me. Because what was in my head was way creepier than what I just saw on the screen. And music, because it has a verbal component to it, it's got lyrics. All that's open to interpretation. And sometimes we get something in our head and in our mind of what we think a song means, or we visualize. And if we see something in video, we go, that's not what I thought. Is it really this or is it not? Or you do it in reverse. And this is the curse.
Right.
You see the video, you hear the song, and you can't get the video out of your head. And examples, I have a really hard time listening to Love is a Battlefield because I can't get out of that shimmy dancy thing at the end because it drives me crazy. I love Scandal. I love the song Warrior, but that's a really, really bad video. And so then the question is that what would they be necessary for? Unless you want to show the band, and I think that's a great thing to do, show them playing, get to know who the musicians are, show a live concert or a stage where they're miming or something, at least you get an idea of what's going on. But let me just say this real quick. Also, the development of the iPhone and the Android phone and the fact that everybody's now walking around with a high quality video camera with them and say, well, what's that got to do with our topic? There was a famous artist not too many years ago who had gone on an interview and they asked him why he had canceled some shows recently. And he said he was ill and his voice was very off. And he said, normally I would never cancel shows because they know what kind of headache that becomes both financially and schedule wise. So they said, well, why did you do it? He said, because it was early in the tour and I know that every single person out there has a phone staring at me. And if I go out and sing like crap, YouTube is going to be posted tomorrow with the singer who says, oh, look, singer's washed up. He can't sing anymore. And it's going to hurt my ticket sales for shows that are still on sale. We never had to think of that before. It's a very interesting paradox. You want to see the video, you want to see your bands, but when a band posts one and a performer's not up to snuff, out come the haters, and it's just hatchet, 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 hatchet. And that cannot help at times. Paul Stanley, all those KISS shows, people would look at those and they go, You watch a Dokken show. If you were ever thinking of going to see Dokken, you'd see one video and you'd be like, why am I paying money to have somebody talk to me while they're singing? So the long story short is you have to have something, but make it a performance and or concert type of thing, or just go and listen to it on a streaming service and listen to the audio and bypass the video altogether. So the answer, no, it's not.
I think you've got good points. I think it's just a different era now, though. Because
sure.
all these videos are just so accessible. Back in the old days, I would sit and wait. We never had MTV. Let me just say this. We never had MTV where I grew up in Ohio. I would have to go to Columbus, Ohio to my cousin's house to see it. We had like maybe Night Flight. Well, Night Flight was good. Don't get me wrong. That was good.
USA Network, right?
Yeah, USA, great. They always play, Neil Young, they play.
Sure.
New Wave Theater, which was my favorite show on Night Flight. That was great. But anyway, we would go to visit my cousin or whatever, and I was just glued. I said, can I turn on MTV? Because it was like an event.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I never got to see any of these videos, And I just think that now, because there's so much accessibility to things now, it's not like a special event. MTV, I think back in the day was like, I considered it a special event. you know.
But I don't know if you all agree that, but it certainly ran the risk of, this is where serious burnout starts to happen. Where if you watched it long enough during the day, like I said, if I'm in a house of 10 or 15 guys that things on all day, and I see,
Bon Jovi.
Yeah, Dee Schneider used to say, on the Stay Hungry tour, he said, why would anybody come see me? He said, our concert was on 3 times a month or 4 times a month. He said, why would anybody go? All you got to do is wait and see it the next weekend.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
What does that mean? I don't know. But
Peter, for me as a kid, it didn't have any effect.
Yeah.
I just love to see the bands. I just love to see the videos, I guess everybody's probably different though. I mean, Dee Snider probably has a good point, but his fan base, Twisted Sister fan base, still wanted to see the band though.
Well, but he wasn't complaining when I Want to Rock and We're Not Going to Take It were like, this is why I listed them. They were 2 of the most heavily rotated videos in MTV history. They just defined MTV. That's what you think of. You think of that. You think of Duran Duran running around in a jungle or in a boat or, going around, or Tawny doing cartwheels over a Jaguar.
Stephen, don't forget Tawny. Don't forget Tawny rolling around on the hood of a car.
But for certain artists, if you look at the album sales, the biggest artists were very pop. The Madonnas and Whitney and all of them had huge benefit. Janet Jackson, because there was just single after single after single, and those videos just went crazy. And their sales were definitely related. So in that genre, it seemed like that had to be the thing. You needed to have that. But all the artists were in them. You always saw Madonna. You always saw Janet. It wasn't, like I said, these crazy conceptual things. If they were fun. Like if you're going to do Material Girl, okay, make, parody Marilyn Monroe and have her run around and that kind of thing. And that's fun, and Mickey is a fun video. I love that.
Well, but videos got very creative by the time you got to So in 1986. Sledgehammer. I mean, they actually started becoming like works of art to some degree. Because when they first started out, obviously they were all shot on videotape. They ended up switching to film, and a lot of these videos were absolutely, Every Breath You Take. Beautiful video.
Would you agree, though, that the analogy is a entertaining or artistic video with a subpar song is still a subpar song?
Correct.
A great song, even with an average video, is still a great song, but you put it with a very creative and catchy video, now you've hit the gold mine, because now you've done both visual and audio, and those are the ones that always
it's a win-win.
Went to the top. Those are the biggest ones. Yeah,
that's true. All right, Peter Jones, excellent. I'm going to throw it over to the Parish of Rock and get his take on, are music videos important anymore? Parish, you've been around the block. Are music videos still important? Especially you're coming from the UK, so what's your take?
Well, I would say I think they are. I think they're as important now as they were back when I started getting into music back in the 70s. So I'm a bit like you, Grant. I have no history with MTV. It was available in the UK, never had it. I got married in the early 80s, didn't have the money, couldn't afford it, never watched it. If I happened to ever see it, it's because I was watching it around a friend's house or around my brother-in-law's house. So I have no real history with MTV. So my history goes back to the 70s. And in the 70s, I think that videos had 3 key functions, and I'm going to give a couple of examples of those functions, and then I'm going to compare that with today. So the first function was to sell new records. In the UK in particular, there was Top of the Pops, there was the Tube, there were other TV programs where bands wanted to get their videos onto those programs, and if they could get them onto those programs, they would then, if they had a good video, and to be fair, sometimes a decent song, sometimes not a decent song, but if they could get the video onto Top of the Pops, particularly if they couldn't play live on it or be on the show, then it would push and sell the record. So that was the first reason. The second reason, I'm going to go to ABBA. ABBA was an international band. They couldn't get to every country. So they started producing videos so that they could have those videos on a program in the UK or in America or in France or in Australia, and they could do it simultaneously. They didn't have to fly across the Atlantic or wait a couple of weeks before a single started dropping off. And then, because back in the 70s, records were not normally released at the same time in every territory. Quite often they were staggered. And that was one of the reasons. So one of the benefits of for ABBA by having a video was that they could get across a load of territories in a way that they couldn't do it any other way. And then for me, I think the start of the modern video was Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. It was a real watershed mark. You can see the videos that were before that tended to be things like Donny Osmond walking through a park, or David Cassidy singing in the snow, or something like that. It was staged, but then all of a sudden you had Queen's video. It was live, but it clearly wasn't just a live concert shot. It was particularly structured. It was really thought through. They were getting the song across. And in fact, they portrayed onto the video something that they could never do live. In fact, at the time, when they toured live, they actually played part of the video. They used to leave the stage, play part of the video, and then come back on, because they could not replicate it live. So the Queen example is a way of getting the live experience across to people that wouldn't necessarily be able to get it. So I think those were kind of three key things. So if I move forward to today, and forgive me, I've done some research, and I did this to either prove or disprove my theories, and luckily they've proven my theories, so that was quite handy. So the first thing is I looked at some recent singles to see how the video impact was on YouTube. So if you take the Rolling Stones' Angry, came out, about 4 or 5 months ago, was out just before the album came out. The album went straight to #1, certainly in the UK. I think it did in the States. In 5 months, that's had 27 million views. You tell me that didn't have a big impact. I think a lot of people, myself included, were thinking, do we really need another Rolling Stones album? Is it going to be any good? You know, and then that came out, you watched the video, and actually you thought, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the album now. So that video, I think, had the impact of drawing people into the album. And certainly 27 million in 5 months is a pretty good, I would think, a pretty good strike rate.
Well, you know, Parish,
that thought.
But Parish, I just want to say, think about this, though. You have a good point. That many views for a legacy act like that.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive.
Well, but I have to ask the next question real fast, Parish, if you can for a second.
Yeah.
The bigger issue to me is vis-a-vis, how do views translate or not translate into actual sales?
Well, I think it's different now, and I haven't got figures for this, but I have got figures for some other things where I can help, because I don't. Well, let me come back to that, because I can help with that to some degree.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Keep going. So I then looked at another band that I don't particularly like, I have to say, but is having a bit of a comeback. They're having a sort of reunion, which was Blink 182. They released a single, One More Time, first single from the new album 4 months ago, 22 million views. I wouldn't have thought it would have that many views that quickly, but clearly it has. And they're now touring, and the tours is selling out. So I think people again are interested in somebody's coming back. Is it going to be any good? It's people have thought, yeah, I quite like that. Even I quite like that particular song, and I'm not a particular, as I say, I'm not really a fan. So again, I think it's been very important. Linkin Park 4 months ago released a new single called Lost. It's already got 70 million views on YouTube.
Holy crap.
And we've heard of all of those bands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now going to go to a band that I do know of, but I didn't think was particularly big. A band called Maneskin, who are an Italian rock band, won Eurovision a few years ago. They released a single a year ago called Loneliness, 77 million views in a year. and that's a new band. So you imagine what impact, whether they've sold a lot of records or not, you imagine the impact that's had on that band's career. So that's just some examples of singles. I looked at another one, which was Daughtry Lizzie Hell's cover of Separate Ways.
Mm-hmm.
And in 3 months, that's had over 8 million views. Now, that doesn't sound as big as the others, but you put it in the context of the acts, I would say 8 million views is a pretty impressive return. So that sort of supports, if you like, the first point about, I think that videos are still important from a point of view of pushing records and pushing new music, if you like, out to an audience. My second one was about getting greater reach, my example of ABBA. And I'm going to use a band to support that, which is a band called The Who. Now, I'm not talking about The Who from the 60s. I'm talking about a band called The Who, HU, from Mongolia, that play Mongolian instruments. So they play, if you go off and watch them, I would recommend it because they're really good to watch. They play Mongolian instruments that look like a guitar, look like a violin, look like a cello, look like a drums, but are Mongolian instruments. And they have that Mongolian guttural singing. So it's not in English.
Yeah.
So this is a band from Mongolia that you would think probably wouldn't do very well across the world. And yet they've got a single that's called You View View. I'm sure I pronounced that entirely wrong. 118 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
They've got another one called Wolf Totem that's got 95 million views on YouTube. And then there's a version of that same song, Wolf Totem, which has got the lead singer from Papa Roach also singing on it. And that's another 40 million views. So if you take those two together, those two versions together, 135 million views. Now they tour all over the world. I've seen them play in the UK. I've seen them at festivals. I know they played through Europe. I think, I might be wrong, but I think they've either just played or about to play in Australia. Now, there's no way that they would be able to tour and get an audience unless they'd had this YouTube exposure in the first place. And they're playing essentially what you said, Peter. They're kind of, it's like watching a live concert in effect, but you can see them, you know, they're miming, you know, it's staged,
right?
But it's really well done. So there's a band, and if you take that to sales, 118 million YouTube, 50 million on Spotify. And I would think 50 million on Spotify is a pretty good set of numbers. So not as good as YouTube, but certainly does push up their Spotify figures. And if you then take the fact that really they're a touring band, they make all their money from touring, pardon me, I would say that it's massively important to them, almost in the same way as it was for ABBA, although totally different context. And then the last one, which is just to kind of have a video that's clever and gets people to see things, the music differently. I had a look at a few examples of that. 21 Pilots, again, not a band I'm particularly into, but my sons are. They brought out a record 8 years ago called Ride. It's got 1.5 billion views on YouTube.
Wow.
Back in Black has only just hit 1 billion.
Yes, that band, they're local boys. They're like 20 miles away from me. They're from Columbus.
So that's pretty impressive. 8 years, 1.5 billion. Even more impressive, they've got a song called Heathens, which was part of a soundtrack of a film, but that's got 2.1 billion views in 7 years.
That's amazing.
So that's clearly very important to them, pushing them. To a lesser extent, I had a look at a sort of a video that I know is popular, which was My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade. 324 million views on YouTube.
I've got that CD.
750 million listens on Spotify. So less on YouTube, more on Spotify, but I'm sure one relates to the other.
Right.
And then if I look at Avenged Sevenfold, they've got four songs that have got over 100 million views. They've got Nightmare at 209 million, Little Piece of Heaven at 132, Hail to the King at 300, So Far Away at 350 million. And their last single, or one of their most recent singles that came out last year, has got over 8 million views. Now, again, they do stories with their videos. They have little cartoons. Some of them are a bit extreme and a bit weird, which I'm sure is part of the appeal. So I would say, a bit like Queen, they're using their videos and the way that they're different to draw an audience in. I think the same with the Black Parade. So if I summarize it, I think videos today are as important as they were back in the 70s. They're used for a similar purpose. I'm not saying every band has what I've just spoken about, but there's enough there that I can see that it's a really important piece to a band's success by having a success in the videos, which was the same in the 70s, the same in the 80s, no doubt in the 90s. I think it's exactly the same now. A very important piece of the jigsaw in my view.
I think you have a good point, Parish. You know,
Let me just, excellent. That was really cool. If I can say, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Grant.
No, I'm just doing my hosting thing.
Well, I was looking at some stuff here. Spotify earnings calculator says, as of in August of 2023, Spotify payment rates can vary, but on averages, artists earn between $4,000 to $5,000 for each million stream.
Jeez.
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
Okay.
They might
This
do better on
article says
YouTube.
Just only 13,000 Spotify artists over 7 million make more than a certain dollar amount. So this is what I'm trying to get at, and I don't really know the answer, and I'm not saying it doesn't make it or not make it worthwhile. The bigger question is the pay scale differential in the music business, and how artists have no other way to make money other than touring. So streaming, and the bigger one is, if you can tour, is your merchandise, because that's almost all profit. That's where you make the huge money, because you can upscale that any way you want. It's your margin. But, and I also think, and I'm not trying to say you're incorrect, I'm just playing a little devil's advocate here. Do you get a view if you watch 3 seconds of a 3-minute video? How long do they have to be on before it actually is a view? Or do you just
Spotify
or on YouTube?
Well, on YouTube, I don't know that is the answer. I know you can't just watch it for a little bit and then go away. There is a period, but whether that period is 10 seconds or 20 seconds or half a minute, I don't know is the truth. But I guess, and of course, the bit we're also ignoring is somebody like me might watch the same video 100 times over a year.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily mean it, but I still think it's pretty impressive that a band from Mongolia that most people haven't heard of has got more views to than some of the big acts have on some quite famous songs. And for somebody, as I said earlier, that some of these acts, I mean, for 21 Pilots to get 1.5 billion in 8 years, when AC/DC have only just hit 1 billion, for me, I think that's impressive. Now, what I think has changed, and why I think the video is important and the Spotify is important, back in the 70s, bands released 2 albums a year because you released a record to support the tour.
Right. That was the cycle.
Sorry, no, it's the other way around. So you toured to sell the record. So you were constantly touring and you made the money through the record. So they were always out there. And to be able to get people to keep coming back, they had to keep churning over the records. So you get 2 records a year because that way people would keep coming back to the tours. Now it's the other way around. They don't make much money out the records. Although I do have a theory that maybe they do. They make most of their money. They make most of the money through the touring. So the number of YouTube views will be there to support the band being out there on tour. The number of Spotify views will be out there supporting people going out on tour. Now, the reason I say I don't totally agree that the bands don't make money out of the records is because you look at the price of well, certainly in the UK, you look at the price of a CD, it's a tenner. You look at the price of vinyl, it's 50 quid. The record, and there's almost as many vinyl now sold in the UK as there are CDs. In fact, I think last year was the first time for however long that vinyl actually had higher sales. So they're getting a bigger chunk. So if they're the right type of artist and they can tap into the vinyl market, I think they do start to make a bit of money. But I think there are bands out there now that are making money by touring, by being on the circuit for the festivals. Yeah, and they can make a living. They might not be multi-millionaires, but they can make a living by touring and being on the festival circuit. And some of these are old bands, you know. So I think the YouTube and Spotify and all the rest all helps the profile. If you've got the reason the Who, Who, are on download regularly is because they know people are interested. They know people will go and see them. Why do they know that? Because they've got 100 million views on YouTube. So I think it's important. I think it's important to the bands. It might not be directly how they're making the money, but I think indirectly it's having an influence and helping them make a living and do.
I don't think it's hurting them.
No, but they have to have that secondary outlet, because if they relied just on that, they'd all go broke.
No,
but I think they always. But I think they always. But I would argue they always did. Apart from the big, you know, there's one or two bands that are out there that are different, but most bands have to have several ways to make money to be able to continue.
Right.
You know what? You know, even bands like an Iron Maiden or you know, I don't know, Motorhead in the past, they all had to keep touring to be able to make money. It wasn't just, well, certainly even in the 70s or 80s. I mean, we think they're big bands, but they were cult bands, really. There might have been big cult bands, but they were cult bands. They weren't multi-millionaires out of what they earned.
Well, a lot of the bands that we look at that are big aren't big anymore. You know, it's not like the modern day artists. You know what I mean?
Well, Iron Maiden's a perfect example on one extreme, because they're always doing videos. They're still releasing new music. So they are, plus they're always touring. So they've got the kind of the triple-headed threat here, where they're always introducing new stuff. You know, Parish, you've got your Kiss shirt on. They haven't released anything. You know, you can go back to Monster or any of that stuff. That's just,
well, they're not going to put out anything because they said, "What's the point? No one's buying any records."
Styx occasionally.
There's a lot of live videos on YouTube.
What's that, Steve? What's that, Elder?
Well, we muted. Sorry. So there's a lot of live videos on YouTube, though, also of Kiss, that you could watch if you want to see them. You know.
Right.
Oh, but yeah, Styx, the performance videos are everywhere. Yeah.
Styx, there are some of these legacy bands, gentlemen, that are still putting out just stellar stuff. And what comes to mind, the last two Styx albums, which I think are phenomenal. The last BOC album was phenomenal. Some of these bands are putting out stuff, even though I don't think it matters. I don't think Styx may have played a little bit for Mission on some of their, when they went and toured, but
it's all vintage stuff.
Yeah, it all goes back. And to be quite honest, I would have loved to see Styx play the Mission, for God's sakes. I think it's a brilliant record. I love it. And, you know, it is what it is.
All I'm making the point, I mean, the question is, are music videos important anymore? All I'm saying is, yes, I think they are. And in fact, in many ways, I think they're as important, and I think they're probably as important as they've ever been, because they raise the profile in, as they always have done, to help the career, and the way the career develops and how they make their money might be different, but I still think it's an important part of the jigsaw for a band.
I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she watches, like, obviously a lot of Taylor Swift videos, and she watches a lot of couple of rap videos and things like that. So that's what, you know, that generation, I think maybe it is an important thing to put out for that reason.
Well, and that's really their only outlet too.
Yes.
It's not like you can just go out and see it, you know. Well, you can, but you have to go to YouTube or Rumble or whatever. Yeah. Video.
And, you know, and Parish qualified that, you know, I mean, the Daughtry with Miss Hale is a performance video. And that's where I kind of kind of drew that delineation. I'm like, I don't think it is necessarily, but if you're going to do a video, do it as a performance video. This whole concept thing is long gone and long dead, and that should not be a part of any of this.
But I'll take the opposite to that for a moment. If you go to Avenged Sevenfold, A Little Piece of Heaven, which is a cartoon about the most macabre relationship ever, I've got no doubt that that has got the views it has because of the storytelling in that cartoon.
Here's a perfect, exactly. Here's a perfect, and I wrote this down while we were talking. Us older folks, who remembers Green Jelly? And and the Three Little Pigs.
That down as
Well, they were Green Jello originally.
Green Jello. I have the Green Jello CD actually.
There you go, Elder. There he goes.
No, this is going above my head. I have
It's
no
one
idea
of the greatest videos of all time.
Well, I'm going to have to go and look it up afterwards.
It's hilarious.
You realize after this show, that will shoot up into the 100 millions now.
That's one thing I was going to say is like there's kind of also the curse of the music video, because if you remember the band Aha, they had that real elaborate animated video.
That's very artistic, a great video.
But they could never really top that after that. They didn't, can you think of another video you saw by Aha after that? I mean,
nothing that
no.
Elder, you have a good point, because I don't remember anything after that. They might have tried to push something, but at least in the States, but Aha, Parish can back me up on this. Aha's huge, right? Aren't they huge still? They have a big following.
Yeah,
in the UK.
Well,
they never really took off here, though.
They had about 4 or 5 big. Yeah, they had 4 or 5 big hits. You're going to ask me what they are, but I can't remember because it wasn't my thing. But
that's where they had success.
They did pretty well and across Europe. They did. Well, another example of that, if you want to pick a band that did really well because of the videos, go with Roxette.
Sure.
Yep.
That was huge, and that was huge in the States, Parish.
I know they were. They were absolutely huge, and again they weren't. I mean, I think they did gig and tour, but mostly their appeal around the world was pushed by video, a bit like ABBA's was.
It's a good point.
Well, Wilson.
The other thing I just wanted to add about videos, which is a bit of an aside, but I do think it's actually quite important, is the importance of the reaction video.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, there's loads of reaction videos, and you can see a lot of people getting into old music through the reaction, watching somebody else watch the video on the reaction video. And you can just read the comments, and you can see the number of people who are getting into music from the 70s and 80s and 90s because they've been watching the reaction videos. I'm not convinced that half the time it is the first time that person has watched that video.
No, I don't buy it.
But it doesn't matter. But in some ways it doesn't matter. But some of those reaction videos have got, I think have got very big viewing figures. You're talking about hundreds of thousands on some of these reaction videos. Yeah. And then there's all these comments under. So I think, again, it's an entirely different sort of subject in many ways. But if you're talking about the importance of a video, then I think the reaction videos is also important, particularly for getting new people into old music. But even with new music coming on, I've been surprised how many reaction videos there was with the Beatles' recent song, with the Rolling Stones' recent song, with Iron Maiden's recent song. Not Iron Maiden, Judas Priest's recent song, Bruce Dickinson's. They've all been pushed through reaction videos. And I've watched those ones because I've not really seen the original. In fact, the first time I watched the latest Judas Priest song was through a reaction video. So I think that's another part of the video market that is actually pushing. So again, it's maybe a subset, but it's a second reason why I think music videos are still important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more
Justin
people
Hawkins from The Darkness, he does those reaction videos, I think, and that's how I saw the.
He does, yeah.
He's great, though.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple.
Oh, he's really funny. He's so funny.
Love Justin.
A couple big channels that do them both ways. One will not do a video at all. They'll just show the album cover. They'll play the music, the studio version.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them will pull up whatever their video is. And then some of them like to pull up only live because they like to comment on how the artist is performing live. So you even got sub-genres within the reaction world, but they all copy each other. And I've never seen so many reaction videos of Stargazer. It's more popular now than it ever was.
Yeah, exactly.
because people are like, oh, they discovered Dio. Now this wonderful opera singer who analyzes everything vocally.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Has fallen in love with Ronnie, and we won't need to plug her here. She's doing well on her own. She just can't get enough of him. And she's just like, oh, I'm back to Ronnie. I'm back to Ronnie. And we're like, yeah.
So hence why I think music videos are as important now as they've ever been.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I never really thought much about it, Parish, but when you frame it like that, they do serve a purpose still.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. The old ones that were concert ones or performance ones are the ones that work. You know,
well, for you, Peter, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
For other people, it's different things. But the fact is, it's broad enough that it can appeal to different people in different ways. And I think, I mean, for me, the main reason why I think music videos is really good is because my wife is an addict to two soap operas over here in the UK. And I can sit in the same room as her as she's watching the soap operas and listen to new music or watch the videos. And, you know, so I don't have to watch any of those soap operas. So to me, they're as important as they've ever been.
That's funny.
So it has some domestic advantage is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, as long as it's in your favor, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I don't think we've changed the world tonight, but been an interesting conversation. I tend to think that, I don't know if they're as important as they were, but in our minuscule and our horrible music industry, I think that still has some effect, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Certain artists, it all depends upon the artist.
Yeah, and what they're doing.
And what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if I was an artist, I would still want to produce something, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I alluded to earlier, like bands can just throw up a concert clip even for a video, you know.
Mm-hmm.
KK's Priest, I watched a couple of their new songs perform live from Bloodstock. I can't remember what the festival was. Can't remember where they were. But
the Bloodstock. Yeah, Bloodstock. Yeah.
Tremendous concert.
Yeah. And you know, those are great. I mean, those are performance videos, and they're live. They're really live, and those are cool just to watch as videos themselves for the song.
Yeah, those I'll watch all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a kid, though, I didn't really care. I just wanted to see the band do something.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because most of the live stuff back in the day, everybody knows that they were like all this dumb Bon Jovi videos. They were just all lip syncing to them. It was just a big production, you know.
I was gonna say one day that back in high school when MTV was on, and I stayed home sick from high school once, and having MTV on all day long, and I remember they played the same Bryan Adams video 4 times, like within 3 hours or something like that. It was ridiculous, and so it was like, I gotta switch this now. I can't watch it anymore.
Probably that theme from Robin Hood.
Oh no, it was like, I think it was
Summer of '69 or
Summer of '69.
This is like
When He Cuts Like a Knife. That was a great record, but it wasn't quite like what was the album called? The album after Cuts Like a Knife. What was that called?
Reckless.
That was probably even a bigger record.
Yeah, lots of Hall and Oates.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, I remember like my friend.
I wouldn't have any problem with that. Compared with the music we were suffering over here in the UK at the time, the stuff that we were having to listen to, I've been quite happy with Bryan Adams or Hall and Oates.
Well, I think Parish. I think the thing is, they say everything is good in moderation, and that if I have a favorite restaurant, if I went every night for a month or 2 months, I'd probably not want to go back.
That's true.
The point is that was even then. It had a formula to it because it was based on sales, and based on everything, because it seemed to be, you know, and they made, we didn't even talk about this. They made a big deal, and Grant was talking about it, how it was kind of an event. I mean, first of all, we have to acknowledge that MTV was a cable channel. It wasn't a regular channel, so you had to pay for it. Yeah. So that was kind of the first thing. The second thing is that they would tease you, oh, Friday night, we have the premiere of the new such and such.
Yeah,
when they were ready to premiere Thriller, I mean, it was almost like the Ed Sullivan thing. It's like the world stopped. They're like, oh, here comes the Thriller video, and it's like everybody's watching.
They hyped it up.
Yeah.
Well, over here, it was released at the cinema. We went to the cinema to watch the Thriller video.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that even the world premiere, like for like I Wanna Rock. I remember that, like when that was going to be a world premiere, and the latest Quiet Riot video, and stuff like that. To be sure to watch, and
Yeah.
watch it like whatever 10 p.m. on Thursday night or whatever it was, and you'd be there tuning
It's a
in.
bit like you do. It's a bit like you do now, Grant, when you put these online.
Yeah.
The live listening parties. Yes.
Well, the live listening party, or you'll put this up and you'll have it so that people can comment on it when it's first shown on YouTube at 7 o'clock and
The premiere.
Oh yeah, premiere.
the premiere. So
That's the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Contrarians
Cool.
world premiere.
Well, I'm going to wrap this dog up. Anybody else have anything to add?
Good.
I don't know if we've set the world on fire with this discussion, but I think that for certain things, I think the music videos are important.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it quite like it was? Or is it? I don't know. I want to hear from people in the chat. I want to hear, give us let us know down below. Please let us know what you think. Are music videos important? We'd all like to hear. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, it's still viable, I think, What more can we add? Anybody have anything else to add?
I'm good.
No,
All right. Well, let us know what you think. If you'd like to be on these.
Been great. Thank you.
The Elder of Rock, of course, in the Parish of Rock. If you'd like to be on these discussions, you can be on these discussions. We'd love to have you. We'd love to mix it up. Look, we've got the Elder of Rock here tonight, for God's sakes. This is his virgin episode. He's already been hazed. He's passed the test. He's here.
He survived.
He survived. We weren't too hard on him. But anyway, if you'd like to be on these shows, we'd love to have you. We also have a Patreon account. You can get on there. There's a lot of great topics. There's a lot of great discussion, a lot going on there. We also have a Ko-fi. Buy us a cup of coffee or a pint. We would like that. And for God's sakes, we love money and we love donations. So feel free to donate. Feel free to give us money because we do this out of the kindness of our hearts and we like to talk music. So based on that spiel, I want to thank the Elder of Rock, the Parish of Rock, and Peter Jones for talking. Are music videos important? I think they are. Well, anyway, what's next on the channel? God only knows, but keep tuned. We have more coming up. So, gentlemen, I'm going to wish you a good night. Thanks for coming on, and leave a comment below. More great content on the way.